What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another video, and today we are taking a look at a brand new offering and the actual debut offering from Kunst Audio called Expressive Violin. So I wanted to do this review because in the world of orchestral sampling, I think we know that the general ensemble libraries, even the dedicated sections like strings, winds, brass, and percussion, those are generally very well covered by a lot of developers. The tricky part comes when we're sampling solo instruments specifically because they have so many nuances and a lot of details that you don't necessarily need to worry about in the ensemble context in terms of sampling. So I think samples, solo instruments have always been a tricky subject, and more developers nowadays are trying to tackle it, and to varying degrees of success, of course. So when it comes to the violin, this is one of those super difficult instruments to tackle correctly and actually get that expression in the samples. And so I was definitely intrigued when Kunst Audio actually reached out to me via email and introduced their library, and then we kind of worked it out. So big thanks to Kunst Audio for sending me a copy for review and for a giveaway copy at the very end as well for you guys. So I'm super interested and excited to share this with you. So before we really dive in, though, I want to share with you these details on the sales page just to show you what it looks like. So yeah, here's the Expressive Violin. It's actually created for Contact Player, which is awesome. You don't need the full version of Contact. You don't have to pay for that. $99. And I believe I read on VI Control that they will very rarely do sales, if anything. So this will be the true value of the product. Then they also go for a more simple GUI, which I really do appreciate as a non-technical person when it comes to sample libraries. I basically just like to load in the patches and get up and running and start playing right away. So out of the box matters a lot to me. But yeah, you can see here in terms of the description, they say Expressive Violin is a virtual instrument for the free contact player. Awesome. Focused on ultra realistic, emotional, and expressive melodic true legato. So for me, that's like a dream come true. But of course, the judgment comes into playing, of course, and the sound. So we'll hear that in a second. But here you can see exactly, this is exactly what the GUI looks like. It's a one patch instrument. So yeah, there's different modes that you record in, and then there's different types of legato as well, 2 to be exact. Then you can watch the demos, you can hear it on SoundCloud as well, and they give you a few more details here to kind of explain what they're doing behind the scenes. All right, so let's kind of dive in. So I've created a really short demo of Salut d'Amour by Edward Elgar, and a very beautiful piece for violin and piano. I've kind of written it up a semitone just to avoid any copyright issues potentially, and we'll hear that at the very end. But let me just show you this instrument first. So first of all, let's find it. Here we go, Expressive Violin by Kunst Audio, and you can see it's literally just that one patch. Now, the great news is you can see here in terms of memory, it really is just quite a lightweight library, right? 318.16 megabytes. Anything for me less than 500 megabytes is a pretty good, solid standard of processing power. And in terms of sizes, it's very manageable for sure. Even on let's say 8 gigabytes of RAM computer. Now, this is actually achievable because this library focuses on just this one purpose of melodic true legatos. It does not have any other articulation. There's no staccato, there's no short notes, there's no crescendos, there's, none of that. It really is just serving this one purpose. And for me, that is amazing because I really love the libraries that really focus on just that one thing. Again, we mentioned at the very beginning, there are tons of libraries that are workhorse purposes or serve workhorse purposes anyway. So when we start to look into specialized libraries, this is where we really start to refine our styles, right? And we get into what we really want for our own music. Now here you can see, again, there's kind of like 2 modes, and this little knob here determines how much delay is going to be introduced into the playback. So if you go to the playback mode, the look ahead basically is at the very end. So there's going to be 272 milliseconds of delay versus record mode, which the instrument responds immediately. So let me show you a quick example of the record mode. So first impressions, what do you think? I honestly love to know, but yeah, for me, it's super passionate. It's so romantic, and I can honestly say that out of the solo libraries that I currently own for violin, at least, that includes Joshua Bell, Tableau Solo Strings, CSSS. None of them really focus on this much expressivity and those really, really smooth and very melodic legato transitions in such capacity as this library. Now, granted, this library is specifically dedicated to this style, right? So you're naturally going to get that result, but it's just, yeah, incredible nowadays what you get in these specialized libraries. And the fact that this is Kunst Audio's debut library, I'm very impressed. So you do have to, again, realize that there is no other stuff that comes with this library, right? There's no other articulations. It really just comes with this one patch. It's legato only. But that being said, that puts more pressure on the library to actually perform this one task really well. And in my opinion, it does. Now, let's get into some of the things that I would love to see improved, or things that I would love to see added potentially. Number one is maybe a built-in EQ, maybe on a separate tab, like on a settings tab or something to control the low, mids, and highs. So if it were me, I personally might add a little bit more high into it and maybe remove some of the low mids or something like that. Of course, it depends on the context of the mix and the rest of your arrangement, what's going on there. But just as a general taste, compared to some of the other libraries I'm used to, this has a very warm and full body tone, especially in the low mids. So I personally would probably turn them down just a little bit and then boost some of the highs myself. Now, what else? The look ahead mode, again, you can hear that big difference, right? So the record mode gives you that instant playback, but it sacrifices the expressivity of the legato transitions. Whereas for playback mode, I kind of had to compensate a little bit. So I had to play, and then there's about a quarter of a second of delay, but the results you get are much, much better. So it's kind of similar to something like CSS, for example, Cinematic Studio Strings, where there's a delay there, but of course you can minimize that using a plugin. I would just myself be aware of that and make sure that you're either nudging the notes back yourself or using that delay plugin to compensate, which is something that just comes with delay libraries inherently. Let's quickly talk about the legato, right? So you probably saw that it was switching between short and long legato, and that's because I'm currently on the velocity setting. So if I wanted to alternate it or switch it to CC, like map this the legato styles to a CC controller, you can certainly do that, but I actually prefer the velocity. So what this means is the short legato is a sampled legato that is naturally shorter in nature, like maybe the transition itself is a bit shorter, but also the vibrato comes in a bit more instantly. So it's basically meant for those shorter notes. Whereas for the longer legato, you essentially get those longer transitions, a little bit more passionate, maybe for those wider intervals, and then you get a more progressive style of vibrato rather than something that comes in instantly. So that's something you're going to want to fiddle with. Once you play in your line and you make sure that it sounds good, you have the general notes correct and the timing good, you want to go in and tweak the velocities, or again, assign it to a CC, but just make sure you're triggering the correct legato styles here. So if you take a look here in my demo, you can see here I've kind of tweaked some of these shorter notes or these quicker notes. They're more blue in nature, which means I've just turned the velocity down because I want to activate these shorter legato transitions. Whereas for these longer notes, I've kind of bumped them up a little bit because, again, I want to trigger that longer legato transition and have that vibrato come in a bit more progressively. And then you have the controllers at the bottom. So bow noise, you can control how much you want there, how much stereo width you want. Do you want it completely stereo or do you want it mono? And then how much reverb do you want? Out of the box, this is what it comes with. So I'm pretty happy with these settings currently, but again, I would love to see an EQ here as well. One little thing to note is that this is primarily a bow change legato library. So especially with those quicker notes, players will naturally not go back and forth so quickly unless it's a particular style they're going for. Usually you would hear more slurs in there, maybe the occasional portamento if the slide is a bit longer or if the interval is a bit larger. And I was actually chatting with Thomas, the owner of Kunst Audio, recently, and he was telling me that, yeah, they basically wanted to go with the bow change approach, but he also gave the violinist the liberty to play slurs whenever he wanted, portamentos as well. And I believe some of those are kind of included in this library as well, depending on your style of performance. But just know that because we have a bow change legato approach, you're naturally going to get best results when you play a little slower, when you play longer melodies that don't require quick bow changes all the time. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. So let me just play a couple more lines here. You can get the nature of this. Oh, and by the way, this is a one dynamic layer library, hence why you don't hear any phasing between crossfades in dynamic layers, right? It's just one dynamic, and it covers that, let's say, mezzo forte to kind of fortissimo register, that when you really want that soaring, high, melodic, passionate performance, that's what you're going to get from this library. It's not very subdued. Yes, so anyway, let's play a little bit more, and then let me show you this Salut d'Amour demo here. So a couple more lines. Maybe I'll open the contact instance back up, actually, just so you can see what's going on. All right, a couple more things to note here. So the only time you might hear a bit of phasing or a bit of weirdness or like artifacts in the samples is immediately after you transition to the next note, because again, you get that legato transition, but then it has to activate that sustained sample. So you might get a hint of phasing just when those two samples are connected. That legato transition connecting to the sustained sample, you might hear the vibrato a little bit phasey there. That's just something that's kind of inherent, I think, in these solo libraries. You can't really avoid that. But the other thing is the rebow. So you might be wondering what's going on there. Can you repeat notes, right? And you certainly could. So if you do it without any pedal, so if I play an A here and then repeat the A, you hear it takes quite a while for it to re-trigger that note, right? So then the next option might be to try with the sustain pedal, and let's see if that works. So I'll play the A, press the pedal, play again. And it comes in a lot faster. And that's a good solution. Now, the only issue, though, is that as soon as I lift the pedal up, that sample now disappears. So from what I can tell at the moment, it feels like the pedal is kind of overriding the playing as soon as you press the pedal down. So as soon as you lift up the pedal, the sound will disappear entirely, even though you're still pressing the A note or whatever note you're playing at the moment. So what I ended up having to do for this performance, because I did have to repeat some of the notes in Salut d'Amour, right? So I actually had to press the sustain pedal the entire time so that the sustain pedal was registered, right, to activate those rebowed notes. But at the same time, I wanted to trigger the legato and play the patch in a regular way. The problem is if I lift the sustain pedal after these repeated notes, again, the sound would just completely disappear and I would have to start the phrase again without having that legato transition from that repeated note to the next note. So that's a bit of maybe a niggle that you might come across that could be maybe addressed in an update, maybe having the pedal as more of a responsive tool, right? So only for those repeated notes, whereas as soon as you lift it up, it completely disengages and then you can continue playing that legato line as you desired instead of having to replay and restart the phrase after that. That's just one little thing there. I don't think I came across anything else that I wanted to address. Oh, and I should also bring up, Thomas actually said that he's working on an update for this library that will also introduce a third, faster type of legato that should accommodate these faster styles, maybe like runs or something like that, a little bit more easily. So maybe those are, contain a more slurred approach So it'll be interesting to see how that also incorporates into this library. But as it stands, I think this library is excellent for those longer melodic lines. And the one dynamic approach really works for this style of library. Again, you're avoiding phasing here. You're getting that natural expression from the performer. And this was also recorded in context, with other music or with music composed specifically to get the best results from the performer. So it's not just recording individual notes over and over and so on. He actually went through and composed music for the performer to play and then extracted the samples from there. So that's a really cool approach. But yeah, let's have a listen to this a little bit more here. And I'll just see if we can leave up this patch here so you can see the legato, what's happening. And here we go. Enjoy. There we go. Okay, maybe let's play that one more time and let's have a look at the MIDI this time. So you'll notice as the notes descend, we get a more light velocity on those notes, and then vice versa for these longer notes. So. Here I'm kind of triggering between short and long legato to get variance in that sample. These are both long legato and then transitioning to a short one. Yeah, generally this library really is catered to the slower melodic styles, and I think it does it beautifully. And I want to do a follow-up video kind of covering my favorite solo libraries for solo strings, like dedicated libraries, and I definitely believe this one will be in there for sure. So let me know your thoughts about this. I'm definitely curious to know what you think about it. Let me know in a comment below. But speaking of comments and stuff, let's talk about the giveaway. So same 3 rules kind of apply. The first one is to fill out the form below to get your details entered and registered. That will put you into the system, and at the same time, that will subscribe you to my email list so I can send you more composing tips and give users free valuable content every single week. And that's kind of like a bonus for signing up for this this giveaway. Number 2 is to actually leave a comment. Now, I'm going to differ a little bit from the previous videos. So instead of asking you what you would use this library for and why you want this library, I actually want to ask you a more unrelated question. I want to ask you, what is your biggest frustration at the moment when it comes to virtual orchestration? So when you're using sample libraries, orchestral libraries, and creating your mockups with it, what is your current biggest frustration or hurdle that you're coming across when you are working on your orchestrations? Let me know that as the comment. And then number 3 is to simply leave a like on this video. Really do appreciate it. It helps out the channel a ton. So if you follow those 3 rules, you'll be entered to win, potentially win this copy of the library. And again, big thanks to Kunst Audio for sending a copy to give away. Little disclaimer here. So this has consistently also happened in the previous giveaways. So I want to give you the heads up that after you enter this giveaway, I will not be contacting you with anything, through anything except for email. Okay? So what's been happening is sometimes there are scam bots that basically troll through the videos and leave replies to your comments on the videos. And they say things like, oh, contact me through Telegram or WhatsApp to claim your prize, things like that. Just so you know, that is not me. I would never ask for your information like that. That's just not how this works. Your information is only sent to me when you fill out the form through step number 1. And that enables me to contact you privately to tell you about the winners and special updates and things like that, right? So just so you know, I would only be contacting you through email. And even if you receive an email from the spam bot telling you that they replied to your comment, ignore that or report the profile. Anytime those profiles come up, I'm always trying to kind of hide them and delete them and block them as quickly as possible. But I just wanted to let you know ahead of time, just in case this does happen. Please ignore any profile that is not me, okay? my profile literally just has my name, Christopher Siu. There's no like text me here or telegram me here or whatever like that, right? It literally is just that one profile that I use for this channel, and it's just my name, Christopher Siu. So just so you know that. But anyway, if that hasn't happened to you, I'm so glad. If it has, I'm sorry. I hope it doesn't happen again. And yeah, good luck with the giveaway. Big thanks again to Kunst Audio, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, my friend. Bye bye.